What's up, folks? I'm Chris, your MLB writer here at Occupy Fantasy, here with a look at the 10 and 9 game main slates on DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo on Thursday, July 7th for MLB DFS. Mentioned 9 game slate versus a 10 game slate. The DraftKings slate includes the second game of a doubleheader with the Cincinnati Reds tonight, whereas FanDuel does not have that game, so that's where the discrepancy comes into play. Today, our favorite play on the board is the pitcher that you see on the screen here. It is Chicago White Sox right-handed pitcher Dylan Cease in his matchup with the Detroit Tigers. Looking at the Occupy model and looking at our starting pitchers filtered for the main slate tonight, Cease is number one on our model with a 19.8 OF index. He's a minus 250 moneyline favorite against Detroit, and he carries an astronomically high 1.55 strikeout per inning pitch projection tonight. Dylan Cease is averaging just under that, 1.46 strikeouts per inning over the last year or so of his work. His batted ball data has started to trend in the wrong direction based off his last couple of outings, so that's a little concerning. This is batted ball data over the last couple of weeks. But, again, looking at splits versus right-handed pitchers, this is Fangraphs.com. Detroit is the worst offense overall by weighted runs created against right-handed pitching, tied with Detroit, and they have, it looks like, the 7th highest strikeout percentage against right-handed pitchers, and most of those right-handed pitchers that they have been facing do not strike guys out at a high rate like Dylan Cease does. So this is a really good spot for Dylan Cease tonight. I think he's the first man into your lineup as starting pitcher, and then you look to do something else with one of these other top plays behind that if you're a single entry type player in DFS. Now, a lot of other names obviously worth going through. All of these guys are really high upside starting pitchers. Let's start with Joe Musgrove of the San Diego Padres with a 16.5 OF index. He's facing off against the Giants, who are underdogs tonight against him. Musgrove is a slight favorite. Musgrove projects for under a strikeout per inning tonight. So out of these top 5 options at starting pitcher, he might actually have the lowest ceiling of the bunch here. And his batted ball exit velocity has started to become concerning, but the batted ball distance is actually very strong in the last couple of weeks of play. Now, the Giants are actually a below-average offense right now in terms of fantasy point production and striking out at a slightly above-average rate. So Musgrove's projection here, there's a very good chance he could outperform this projection, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Now, Tony Gotslin of the Dodgers and Garrett Cole of the New York Yankees have identical 15.8 OF index rankings. Gonzalez has the far easier opponent tonight in the Cubs. That's why he has a minus 295 money line on his side with the Dodgers tonight in that matchup. He's the biggest favorite on the slate, has line movement in his favor, projects for 1.1 strikeouts per inning, has limited batted ball exit velocity recently, but the batted ball distance is a concern. It's one of the highest batted ball distances allowed on the slate at starting pitcher. Now, Garrett Cole just simply has a really tough matchup with the Boston Red Sox. That's what's weighing down his ranking quite a bit here, but a 15.8, still pretty strong, and he'll probably be a good high-risk pitcher tonight, someone that people will not be playing in low-risk contests because of the matchup with Boston. Spencer Strider, we've gotten bit a couple of times with him, but we know what upside that he has. 1.51 strikeouts per inning projected tonight against the St. Louis Cardinals. This is basically a league average matchup for Strider. The Cardinals basically right in the middle of all of MLB in terms of strikeout rate, fantasy points they're producing, so don't have to worry too much about this spot for Strider against the Cardinals, other than just the potent bats that are in that Cardinals lineup. Hopefully he can actually miss them tonight and generate the strikeouts that we are projecting. Let's look at the lowest ranked pitchers in our starting pitcher model to see who we want to target with stacks. Louis Cardinals with the Reds is facing the Pirates, probably only going to pitch about an inning. That's why we have him ranked so low, and this is only available on DraftKings tonight. But that would make the Pirates interesting with a really strong matchup. Also only available on DraftKings, Bryce Wilson with the Pirates, allowing the 4th hardest batted ball exit velocity in all of MLB over the last 2 weeks of play. That's certainly something that will make him interesting for us to target tonight. Now, Matthew Liberatore here with the St. Louis Cardinals. 12th hardest batted ball exit velocity, 27th furthest batted ball distance allowed out of all pitchers in Major League Baseball the last couple of weeks. Sort this table by batted ball exit velocity. He's got the 3rd worst on the slate. Batted ball distance, 2nd worst on the slate. Matthew Liberatore does seem like someone we're going to target with Braves bats tonight. Marco Gonzalez with the Seattle Mariners facing off against the Toronto Blue Jays. Left-handed starting pitcher. No money line in for this game yet, but the Blue Jays have a pretty potent lineup against lefties. Expect him to remain right around the bottom of our model once this money line comes in for the Seattle and Toronto game. Gonzalez's StatCast data recently is very good, though. So there is one reason maybe to shy away from Toronto bats. Now, our stacks do have a high degree of consensus today, actually, with the lowest ranked starting pitchers. Atlanta number 1 with a 63.4 cumulative OF index for the lineup. Number 1 in every category, projected isolated slugging, projected weighted on base average, and highest implied team total on this slate. Team total has gone up by almost 3/4 of a run. Expect Atlanta not only to be the best play tonight, but to be the most popular play tonight. So if you're going to play Braves hitters, you have to think about the larger context of your entire lineup and how to leverage the field by doing so. But with this outlier style ranking, it certainly looks like Atlanta is worth playing this evening. The Los Angeles Angels are an interesting option tonight. Modest implied team total. That's because they have the highest strikeout rate in all of Major League Baseball the last 30 days, striking out on just over 30% of their plate appearances. That's over 3% higher than the next closest team in terms of high strikeout percentage. This is a very, very low floor but high ceiling spot for the Los Angeles Angels against Jordan Lyles of the Baltimore Orioles, who project them for the second highest weighted on base average, third highest projected isolated slugging against Lyles, and that's a good reason to target them in high-risk contests tonight. Toronto mentioned their matchup with Marco Gonzalez, left-handed pitcher. The Blue Jays have the second highest projected isolated slugging, the fifth highest weighted on base average on the slate, so we certainly like them a lot. So much so that when I used our lineup builder at OccupyFantasy.com and ran 300 lineups for MME here tonight on DraftKings, I actually did get Toronto primary stacks in the majority of my DraftKings lineups. Now, the team that actually popped a lot as a secondary stack that you should be aware of tonight, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks have the fifth highest OF index on this slate, fourth highest projected isolated slugging, right in the middle of the pack in terms of weighted on base average and implied team total. Looking at our hitters on this slate, let's go to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Other than Ketel Marte, who is the number 1 hitter in the model for Arizona, we have low price everywhere else on DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo. Everyone except Geraldo Perdomo with a 4.2 OF index or higher. Anything above a 4 is acceptable to us at hitter. And at all these prices, I do think looks like we've got a lot of pieces here with the Diamondbacks that allow us to jam some of these more expensive primary stacks tonight. Pitching for Colorado is Austin Gomber, a left-handed pitcher. And we have quite a few Diamondbacks that actually hit lefties very well. The best is Ketel Marte. That's obviously why he's number 1. Jordan Luplow with a 320 isolated slugging against lefties over the last year of his plate appearances since July 7th of 2021. Christian Walker at first base. Really strong weighted on base average against lefties. Buddy Kennedy with a 200 isolated slugging against lefties at second base. Minimum price on DraftKings. That's an interesting low price option tonight. Carson Kelly with a 180 isolated slugging at catcher. Just $2,300 on both DraftKings and FanDuel. 6.2 OF index. These are some of the cheap Arizona hitters I think are worth using to give you access to some of the better options on this slate. And the number 1 option is the Atlanta Braves. Braves have that matchup with Matthew Liberatore of the St. Louis Cardinals with the really poor batted ball data in the last couple of weeks of play. The left-handed Liberatore is in trouble tonight because we have basically each of the first 5 hitters in the anticipated Braves lineup tonight. That's Acuna, the batting order, not the OF model you see on the screen here. Acuna, Swanson, Olsen, Riley, and Travis d'Arnaud. All 5 of these guys here hit lefties extremely well. Michael Harris, the rookie, has a pretty good weighted on base average against lefties, and Adam Duvall, if he's in the starting lineup, has one of the higher isolated sluggings, 234 isolated slugging against left-handed pitching over the last year of his plate appearances, so that certainly puts him in play, and that's why by OF index, Adam Duvall is actually very high in this matchup against Liberatore. Now, I do think there are other ways to play the slate. Atlanta's probably my favorite one, given all this information, but another team that does crush lefties is Toronto, and Toronto does not have an implied team total yet in our model, but they do have all of these really strongly ranked hitters in our model. 7 of the 9 above a 4.5. Even Santiago Espinal and Gabriel Moreno, though, are worth considering this evening. Moreno and Espinal both have elite weighted on base averages against lefties. Teoscar Hernandez is the best all-around hitter in the Blue Jays lineup against lefties. He has a 361 isolated slugging, 475 weighted on base average over the last year's worth of his plate appearances against lefties, so I would make sure that Teoscar Hernandez is the anchor of any Blue Jay stacks that I build tonight against Marco Gonzalez. Over on DraftKings, I have started with our number 1 pitcher, Dylan Cease, in this really strong matchup against the Tigers. I've got 5 high upside Atlanta Braves bats. I'm interested in playing for strikeout upside on with both of my starting pitchers, so I'll probably lean towards Spencer Strider. Still have 25.33 per player remaining. A lot of value bats on specifically the Arizona Diamondbacks to finish off your lineup. So that's one way to play this slate that I think is most interesting. Over on FanDuel, I've got Dylan Cease. I've got 4 high upside Atlanta Braves hitters, $23.75 per player remaining. That is enough to finish your lineup off here, but if you're worried about the salary, you can drop from Cease to someone like Strider, who's just $8,600 tonight, and you have $28.25 per player remaining. That's plenty to figure out what to do with a secondary stack and a one-off hitter, because if you build this way, you need at least one player from 3 different teams on FanDuel, so keep that in mind. I think this is a viable way to play the slate tonight, but keep an eye out for the daily plug at OccupyFantasy.com. We'll have that posted on our website by about 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In there, we'll give you our final top pitchers, top stacks, top hitters that you consider for your contests. You want to talk about MLB DFS up until then, you consider joining our Discord. There's a link to do so below the description of every video that we post on this channel, and we would love to see you in there talking about MLB DFS and all the other sports. NBA Summer League starting this, NBA Summer League slates on DraftKings starting today. We have our team working on that for you if that's your type of thing as well. Good luck tonight, and we'll talk to you tomorrow for more MLB DFS.